This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic, the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might try to rob banks, our tattoos would undoubtedly give us away. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly will not be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I'm a film critic, and I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I am joined by my brother and common man co-host, Mr. 6 Inches himself, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy? I thought you'd like that one. Yeah.
I'm awesome. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty
Mr.
good.
6 inches here.
Yeah, that's the best. Like all the throwaway lines in this movie is like they're really just like Mr. 6 inches. I'm like, oh, okay. Also, I might have to point. This would be a good time to point it out. Jon Hamm, famously well endowed. So apparently, from the scoops of everything that's happening. It is a new week. It is Oscar week. This is dropping a day early thanks to the Oscars. So thanks for having us here on a normal Saturday. See the light streaming in, Jake. It's one of those sunny days. It's
same here, bud.
And
yeah, no, it's the same thing here. Yeah,
it actually
like the lights coming in. I'm like,
it actually is.
What are we doing?
It actually is a good thing for the sake of our case for a sunny day. But if you cannot tell from all the things we've been talking about, we are talking about the film The Town, directed by Ben Affleck, written by Ben Affleck, Peter Craig, and Aaron Stockard, based on the book Prince of Thieves by Chuck Hogan, starring Ben Affleck, Rebecca Hall, Jon Hamm, Jeremy Renner, Blake Lively, and Chris Cooper, co-starring Titus Welliver, Victor Garber, Slaine, rapper actor Slaine, Owen Burke, Dennis McLaughlin, and Pete Postlethwaite. Opened on September 8th, 2010 at the Venice International Film Festival. Went wide September 17th, 2010. Pretty good box office for the kind of film it is. A very adult R-rated crime drama. 92 million US, 61.8 million international, 154 million on a $37 million budget. Doing just fine for itself. Nominated for only one Oscar, but a very well-deserved Oscar nomination, Best Supporting Actor for Jeremy Renner. Lost to Christian Bale for The Fighter, something that has no problem losing to. No problem. Rotten Tomatoes, 92% from critics, 85% audience. I'm shocked that it's not way higher on the audience. It seems like one of those.
I really thought
I thought it'd be a flip, like the critics would be a little less receptive to it. So this is technically the second movie that Ben Affleck had ever directed after Gone Baby Gone. This is the first time he decided to star in his own movie. And I'll do a quick plot summary of The Town. The Town is essentially about the story of four neighborhood friends in Charlestown, Boston. Doug McRae, played by Ben Affleck. Jim Coughlin, played by Jeremy Renner. Glonsey, that's tough to say. Glonsey, yes. Glonsey.
It's Glonsey.
That's the rapper Slade, and then Des Eldon. There are four friends. They've been robbing banks for a while. They're just, one of those guys, a group of guys who never leaves their hometown. They rob a bank, and Doug is kind of the essential leader of the group, but is more level-headed than the rest of them. Jim, much more a hothead, takes the bank manager hostage in order to help facilitate the bank robbery, lets her go unharmed. So after finding out that Claire lives in the neighborhood, Doug follows her and find out how much she told the police, and kind of understands that she actually sees one of Jim's tattoos, and it's like, okay, well, doesn't want Jim to do anything about it. And so he kind of hanging out with her, but actually a romance begins to develop and goes from there. As they get closer, at the same time, the FBI has some agents, specifically Special Agent Adam Frawley, played by Jon Hamm, and his partner, Detective Dino Klompa, played by Titus Welliver. Dino was a member of that community and became an FBI agent. They are trying to go after the group, trying to discover everything that's going on and trying to catch them in the act. They have an armored car robbery in the north end of Boston in the middle of the day. It goes somewhat awry, but is successful. And then Doug wants to go away and leave the town behind, essentially, and ask Claire to go with him, which she accepts. But Frawley learns that Claire finds out the connection between Claire and Doug, and wants to prosecute her as an accessory, assuming she's actually in on it. They want to have kind of one final hurrah of a bank robbery headed off by Pete Postlethwaite, Fergie, the kind of local crime boss. You say, well, I want you to rob Fenway Park. And so it's like, okay, well, we'll rob Fenway Park and then I'll leave and that'll be that. They go and rob it, but unfortunately it goes very wrong despite getting the $3.5 million. Both Glonsey and Dez are killed. And then Jim is caught out on the street and shot by the FBI after suicide by cop, essentially saying he's not going to go back to prison. Doug is able to escape with the money and wants to reunite with Claire, but he sees that the FBI has infiltrated her. She tips him off to say, hey, the FBI is here with the sunny day comment. Doug decides to leave a little bit of money for her. And then he goes down to Florida, and kind of a happy ending, as happy as this kind of movie could be. As far as a happy ending, it is very much an ending, as Doug is hanging out in Florida. And Claire donates the money to refurbish a hockey rink that Doug used to play in the name of his mother. There's a lot. There's cops versus robbers and anti-hero films in general. Doug is a character. He's easy to empathize with because obviously, just compared to everybody else, he's like, well, he has a set of morals. He doesn't want to kill people. He's robbing banks, but he tries to do it the smart way. And pretty much every decision he makes, you kind of on his side, even though he's like, oh, he's shooting at cops. You're like, no, this is part of the deal. He killed his friend. Like, there's always it's such an interesting way to present an anti-hero where he really doesn't do anything all that good. He's a bank robber from the jump.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's a bad guy the whole time, but he's a smart bad guy and one with principles, at least. At one point with that robbery, I think Renner's character, Jim, he's like, hey, if they want to die for $10 an hour, then don't get in their way. And he's like, no one has to get hurt. We can just aim for engine blocks and so I mean, he has a stronger moral purpose, whereas I think the others in the group, A, are less intelligent, and B, are just
thrills,
street
money. Yeah, it's funny. Even that scene specifically where they're kind of setting up the robbery, and Affleck Doug's kind of like, well, I don't like the driver. He's a Clint Eastwood type. He's like, he's gonna do something trying to be heroic, and whenever you have somebody who's going to be trying to be heroic, it's a good chance to get somebody killed. Like, and he recognizes that, and it's not necessarily, he's like, yes, I want to rob this thing, and I'll pistol whip somebody for the sake of, they have a concussion, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not taking money out of their pocket. And it's a good point, is they want to die for $10 an hour. Being an armored truck driver does not exactly seem like a job you exactly want to do.
Well, and I think like their first robbery, I think he's talking about the armored car driver. He goes, ex-cop, he's 57 years old. Yeah. You see him later, he's reading a newspaper while the other guy trucks out the money or whatever. And then what you're talking about on that other robbery where he goes, he's young, he wears his fucking vest outside of his shirt. Yep. His pants are fucking tucked in. Yeah. Like, he basically recognizes, like, this guy's an armored truck driver that thinks he's, what does he say? Like, thinks he's G.I. Joe or something
itching,
like that.
He's itching for a holdup. That's all he wants. He wants a holdup. And like, that's why he joined it.
Yeah. It was his fastest path to get a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
and he's kind of recognizing like, okay, not that this guy's going to be a badass. That's something interesting. I don't think he says we shouldn't hit this because this guy is going to be like a Navy SEAL or SWAT or something. He's going to be fucking stupid and he's going to push our hand.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
It's a really interesting dynamic and all that. And the kind of stuff that's what makes him so different than everybody else is he thinks to those levels as opposed to everything else. The heists in this movie, like the robberies themselves are really well done. They're really dynamic and more than anything, I was watching that clip for the midday armored truck. It's the actual robbery minute and a half. Like they roll up, come out, hit the one guy, hit the other guy. They're loading up the money. They see the guy come out. The guy holds Doug hostage. Jim shoots him, and they're gone. I mean, this is not Dog Day Afternoon. They're not hanging in there,
right?
Like trying to, and then the circumstances, they're like, okay, well, we got to shoot at the cops for the purposes of getting away. But it's not like a thing where it's a really interesting dynamic of how this movie has with cops. Interestingly, like, just because like the FBI agents are obviously kind of being the good guys, not being the good guys, but the righteous kinds. But at the same time, sure,
he shouldn't rob banks.
But at the same time, that scene at the end of that armored truck scene, when they're switching, and they have the guns, they have the money, they look over and they see the one cop, and the cop goes, "Nope, I don't feel." It's the exact opposite of the armored truck guy. It's this is self-preservation, baby.
Well, yeah, and I mean, how stupid really would you have to be to just jump out and draw down on 5 guys with rifles?
Yes.
You know, and he's like, I'm working a traffic detail here. I got 18 months until I hit pension. I
got child support payments. Like, yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, it's just, I mean, if you got a brain in your head, you go, I ain't going to win that one. Nope. I ain't going to try.
You got the number. You just look at the numbers and you're like, well, I didn't see anything. And and it's
by God, I'm blocking traffic at this intersection though. I did my fucking job and didn't get fucking smoked for it.
Exactly. I
mean,
Affleck self-directing himself. I see a lot of, you can kind of tell what Affleck was going for with a lot of the things he's doing in this movie. Like you can tell his influences, especially Michael Mann's Heat from 1995, the famous bank robbery scene at the end of that. That's kind of the idea of he was going for with the visceral, like the deafening gunshots, the how everybody just kind of stops and it's just like, this is a big, huge thing. And you can, I'm really impressed with how well he does action, especially from Gone Baby Gone, because Gone Baby Gone is not a very action packed movie. It's very dramatic, heavy. And he really cranks it up in this and really gets that action up there. He doesn't, he parses it out when it has to. It's not like a nonstop thing, but man, when it gets there, it gets up there and the adrenaline is pumping.
Yeah. The parking garage.
Yes. The Fenway parking garage
shootout. That's a great shootout scene.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. If you like shoot 'em ups, then that'll give you that aspect of it. One
of my favorite things about that scene is the sense of atmosphere. Like, okay, it's like you're in a base in the parking garage of Fenway Park, but you're like, okay, I know where I am. You're in the Fenway Park. On the other side of that fence is all the FBI guys. You had FBI guys down this way. You got FBI this way. You understand the claustrophobia. You understand the stakes. You understand what's going on and kind of how everything is happening. Like, and it's a really good set design and everything and the structure of everything. It's a really cool thing that just everybody does. I want to point out this is a Ben Affleck shooting a assault rifle. One of my favorite things in movies is to watch somebody shoot a submachine gun or a machine gun, an automatic weapon, and watch their face. Affleck, most people do what Affleck does in this movie, kind of pursing lips. And Bruce Willis is an all-time goofy-faced machine gun shooter. But in addition to this one, just in the future, whenever you see somebody shooting a machine gun, just look at the stupid faces they make. It's just, you never notice. So this is,
you know what my face makes whenever I shoot an automatic weapon?
Smiling. It's just a ear to ear smile. You're like, this is fun.
Christmas morning, man.
This movie is incredibly Bostonian.
Yes,
we obviously had our Departed episode, but you know, this is up there as far as one of the most Boston movies you can get. It's just like it was not difficult for Mark Wahlberg to play a Boston asshole. It's not difficult for Ben Affleck to play a Boston knucklehead who's a little smarter than everybody kind of thinks he is. Yeah.
And my understanding is he's from Boston, but he didn't grow up privileged. I mean, he was kind of from, he was on the lower
side of things. Yeah. And you know, you kind of look at everybody else, and the actors in this are so good that you're like, oh, they're probably from Boston. You're like, well, Jeremy Renner isn't. I think he's from California. And then obviously
he was English.
No, Rebecca Hall is English.
Okay.
Jeremy Renner's from Modesto, California. Slane is from Boston. He's one of the most Boston-ish person ever. Same thing.
That guy didn't act.
Same thing with Owenberg. Yeah, he didn't have to do anything. He just Affleck showing up. What's my name? Got it. Like,
okay. I call you this. You call me that.
Yeah, pretty much. And apparently, whenever they showed up on set, Blake Lively had been going kind of deep into trying to get the accent, and Affleck wondered, it's like, oh wow, where'd you grow up around here? She goes, no, I think she's from California too. Like, just but man, her accent, like that kind of one of the things this movie kind of gets is we're used to the trailer trash rednecks. This is the equivalent of trailer trash rednecks from the Northeast. This is what all these people are. This is just what they know. Yeah.
And I think it's a bit reminiscent of maybe some movies like 8 Mile. I'm not saying that's a cinematic masterpiece.
I know what you mean.
Just saying is like, well, let's be honest. Like, a lot of times, if you think a poor white person, rough upbringing, rough side of town, then you probably think trailer trash redneck.
Yeah, generally. Yeah.
But there are different in
levels.
Detroit and Boston and Dallas and Houston.
There are different levels of like thinking of how of poverty in different subgenres of places. Like, whenever we think of it, we think of Southern as in idiots living in trailer parks, spitting into coffee cans, and that's the kind of thing we think of. Northeast is probably more like this, and you think
you just described me.
Well, you don't live in a trailer, but you have actual walls. But I mean, at the same time, like, even
the bricks on this son bitch.
even like you said, 8 Mile, that's a different type of poverty as well. It's white poverty in the middle of black poverty. So there are all these different types of things, and it's just like, well, this is my circumstances, these are my neighborhood, and that kind of ingrains you that much more into your environment. It's like, well, why are you a bank robber? Because everybody's bank robbers. It is what it is. And
it was I think there's there's a couple quotes at the credits of the opening credits where they said it was a family business in Charleston. I mean, the skills were passed on from generation to generation. Yeah. It's like, that's what we do. We rob shit. Yeah. So, and you know what? I mean, a lot of times, especially amongst boys turning into men, they tend to gravitate towards what their dad did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's what they know. It's not even based off of like, oh, well, my dad's a plumber, so I'm going to be a plumber. Yeah, there is that. But at the same time, just based off of like, my dad was an asshole, so I'm probably an asshole. Like it's kind of just emulating what you know. And
well, yeah. And there are a few people that have the ability to go the complete opposite direction and go, okay, I want to be opposite of that. More often than not, it's like, that's just what I know. So why change lanes at this point?
Yeah, I agree. It's the the family dynamics of all this as well. It's I've known Jim for a long time, and so we haven't really talked much about Blake Lively's character. Her what is her Krista. Krista. So it's not necessarily that like Krista is somebody that's like, oh, this is who Doug has been wanting his whole life. It's like, no, it's just your best friend's goofy slutty sister. Like it's kind of in the vicinity of like, well, why would I not? Because she's there and she's a mess. So I always think of this whenever I drive through small towns. I'm like, whenever I'm in there's a high school of, let's say, 100 people. It's like, well, your options are so limited. You don't actually, it's like, what is your actual choices and what is just what's left, essentially? Like,
yeah. Well, and it's kind of, and I'm going to dive deeper into this, much deeper. So I'll kind of glaze over it right now, but it's like, there's this scene in the bar with what's his name?
Jon Hamm. Yeah.
And Blake Lively, they're at the bar, and he goes, "How long have you known Douglas McCrae?" She goes, "How long have I known Dougie?" My whole life.
My whole life. Yeah. It's
I mean, it's almost tragic, that she's like, he's everything she wants, and the only thing he wants is to get the hell out of there. I mean,
she's the epitome of what he absolutely does not want to be nailed down to. It's not necessarily anything bad she did. It's just that, I agree. So this is the first time Affleck had directed himself. I think he does a really good job performance in a movie where he self-directs. Like, it's a very much like, from the jump, he doesn't overdo the, hey, I'm going to make myself look awesome, I'm going to make myself look perfect, but very much righteous, I guess, and just much more intelligent than probably what's on the page. I really liked Affleck's. I like Affleck as an actor probably more than most people.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the movies where I think you really see him show, because I mean, there's like Pearl Harbor. All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. I mean, it's kind of put on and campy and Armageddon. It's kind of like, okay, now those were his early days.
Sure.
Granted, but yeah, this is one of those where you go, this dude's not just a teenage heartthrob. He's a legit actor. He's doing work.
Not to mention, he's only done the one movie, Gone Baby Gone. It received really good critical acclaim. It was a minor hit. It wasn't by any means a flop or anything. But I mean, This is him going like, he's personally invested in it. It's his thing. Like he wrote it, he directed it, he produced it, he's starring in it. He's like, this is all kind of on my shoulders, and I'm really gonna have to step my game up. It's kind of like having the skin in the game is worthwhile. Like, why would you like you put all your cards on the table? You kind of gotta step it up and make it happen. And he really does.
Yeah. And something I can appreciate about this movie is that I mean, it comes across as very authentic. Like we've said before, like, I mean,
Boston
do you need
guys
Donnie
in Boston,
Wahlberg? Yeah. I mean, you know, what's the saying? Write what you know.
Yep.
Okay. Act in what you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people obviously do brilliant jobs being something completely different, but you can see a natural fit there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, I can only think that if me and you played a couple of guys from Texas, we would do way better than most people.
Yes.
Than being two dudes from Boston.
Yes.
Or
I mean,
or whatever. I mean,
there's a level of like, if that's a great example. So if we were playing in a movie where we're guys from Texas, we would just have that level of comfort. If we had to put on Boston accents, we'd have this level of unsure. Like, we're just like, I don't feel like, it doesn't matter how much I practiced, how good they say it is. It's like, it doesn't feel right. Like,
see, like if I put on an English accent or an Australian accent, a Bostonian accent, you name it, even if I could freaking nail it, I would always have this insecurity of the real locals are going to know. They're going to pick up. They're going to say something's a bit off.
We talked about it
whenever you're playing your own, you know, for me and you, like, oh, I have to play a guy from Texas. Well, I'll just talk like myself.
Talk like I normally talk like, And
if someone says you're not from Texas,
we talked about it in our Eastern Promises episode, like that Viggo Mortensen accent. He doesn't do anything wrong, but it doesn't ever really fit. And but at the same time, like a guy like we talked about in our Last of the Mohicans, that the accent level for Daniel Day-Lewis is impeccable. So it feels lived in. Like, you got those different levels. And like you said, with this, it's just that level of comfort gives that another level of believability. The guy who does the best is Jeremy Renner, who fits in like a glove, despite being in no way involved in anything Northeastern.
Yeah, he is incredible in this. So believable. Just like
you know those guys who are just like give you nonstop grief, but they're your friend, and that's just what they are. Like, it sucks, but they're always going to get you into trouble. They're going to be there be there in a pinch,
but they'll get you out of it too.
That's this like, man, why'd you have to shoot the guard? And it's like, well, he was there. He had you by gunpoint. I had to shoot him. But at the same time, it's the same guy who can say, I can't tell you, you can't ask me about it. We're going to go hurt some people. Whose car are we taking? It's almost a cliche at this point, but I mean, that's what you're looking for in that guy.
Yeah. It's, to me, that line, this movie could stand without it. It's a good movie without it, but that encapsulates the whole thing. If you ask me, is Doug comes in. I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. He goes, whose car are we taking?
Exactly. It's and without a little bit of hesitation, not even the littlest bit, just like, yep, let's do this. And we're going. And even when they're in there beating up the guys, he's like, I don't know what you did to piss my brother off, but I mean, it's like, but this is
he's
what
like, usually I'm the hothead, but you pissed that guy off. So
it's funny how the dynamic changes. Renner is, and you know, it's the really interesting physical dynamic between Renner and Affleck, because Affleck's a big guy. Affleck's like 6'3", 6. He's a big, he's a big boy. and Renner is not. Renner's a tiny little man, and but the difference in the gentle giant versus like the furious little Napoleon guy, the guy with the Napoleon complex, and just going back and forth, they're really well complemented each other. I think the most important scene is that scene next to the cemetery where they fight and talk about like, it's like, I didn't kill that guy just because I wanted to kill him. I killed him because
I did it for you.
He said he was going to kill you, so I had to kill him, and that was it. And I went to jail, and it sucked, and I'll never go back to jail. And it kind of
9 years.
9 years. And he lays down every single reason this and this all happened. And it's a great way to deliver expeditional that stupid dialogue you have to fill in the blanks in a fun way, in a dynamic, interesting way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's something like a lot of people can probably relate to, is like just growing up in your hometown. Like, I mean, we moved around a bunch, and so it wasn't.
We don't have that level of connection. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I live where I live because it's the deepest roots I have. But
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that's a conflict a lot of people I think deal with, is trying to put their past behind them and go somewhere where the past can't follow them. And then there's some people that go, no, this is home. We're family. That's that.
Yep.
And if you leave, yeah.
That's the two ideologies that are fighting against each other in this film. And it's and obviously personified in Affleck and Renner. On the flip side of that, now, have you seen Mad Men? Have you ever seen any episodes of Mad Men, or you have?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously this is in the thick of Mad Men hype. So Jon Hamm is Don Draper, and that's who he is. And as soon as essentially that show gets big, and he's the star of it, he's winning Emmys left and right. Once this happens, every movie in the world is like, okay, we got to make Jon Hamm be a thing in movies. And this is one of his first roles. He friggin' nails it. And then nobody knows what to do with him. Nobody makes it work again. Nobody makes it work in a correct way. Like, he's fine in other stuff. He's good in other stuff, but this is the closest any movie has gotten to be like, this is the Jon Hamm you want. Like,
yeah, he's really incredible in this. I mean, he does such a good job of being highly intelligent, highly charismatic, forceful, and I mean, you almost root for him.
Mm-hmm.
But even though he's willing to get gritty, and you kind of see his dirty side, I mean, it's he's not an angel.
No.
He uses some tactics that I can tell you aren't exactly legal, but
so just there's an alternate version of this movie where I think Affleck had a longer director's cut. It came out, and I think he's shown it, but it's just a little bit of extra scenes on what goes on. But one of the more interesting parts of it is that scene with Hamm and Blake Lively. Is there's a little more to that scene, and it kind of gets to the point where he might come across as worse. Like he's going sleazier and kind of like hitting on her more and kind of crossing that line even further. And I think how the movie works is, I really like how the movie works, where he's incorruptible. He's one of those Elliot Ness types that you're not gonna
untouchable.
You're not gonna be able to get him on a side of like, hey man, we think take a bribe. He's not gonna do that, especially in that scene, that great interrogation where he's like, he's like, when you're I have to slap you to shut up. So I'm the guy to tell you you're gonna go fuck yourself. Like that level of quiet intensity is why you sign Jon Hamm up. And if you make him that much worse, it makes it like you kind of always have to stand on the side of like, okay, there are anti-heroes, but who is the person, who's the good, who's the all the way good? And he's as close as
it's like life.
Yeah, it's true.
No one.
It's true.
But here's an argument I would make in counter to saying that he's not corruptible or anything like that is the way that he went after Douglas McCrae. The route he took is he knew that a female was his weakness. And that's how he could get to him. How is exploiting that female to get to him any different than the florist with Douglas McCrae's mom, because his dad said he wouldn't work for him and was going to do his own thing, and he got his mom hooked on drugs to mess her up, and to compromise
and near the end of the film, like he's like, Krista, do you want to see your kid ever again? You got to help us. Like it's and he has no way to know that things are going to be fine if you help us. Like he can put in the word, obviously, but I mean, he's singularly focused on catching McCrae. Like that's what he cares about. And he's going to take that level. And even in that speech with the interrogation, you know, we talk about, I can't be corrupted. But he said, man, if I had 2 minutes, I'd suffocate that son of a bitch armored car guy. So you could
we get you
on a murder charge. Yes. I mean, it's that level of that level. And I really like his, it's just a cool dynamic of a character. Like,
yes,
like usually, like you said, those FBI guys are in normal movies are like saints, like an Elliot Ness type, and he is by no means a saint. So
there's a lot you can do with specifically law enforcement characters, as well as just making them. I mean, there's just an extra level of complexity because they're all human, but they're doing this job where they have to always be the good guy.
Yep.
And so there's automatically going to be like a man versus man conflict that is just comes with it. So count the cop movies, you know?
Sure. Yeah. It's
so
it's
why?
there for a reason. Yeah. So we haven't talked about Claire, Rebecca Hall. The essentially driving force of the movie that doesn't necessarily need to be there. If I really like Rebecca, I love Rebecca Hall as an actress, and I like her in this movie. And I don't think Claire is unnecessary to the movie, but if Claire's not in the movie, I'm not sure much changes. I still, he would look for a way to be getting out of Boston regardless. And he would be looking for a way out and away from this and all that kind of stuff. She's just kind of the, hey, you're the catalyst for why I want to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, I think you can see that Douglas McCrae already wants to get out. He's already pulling back.
Yeah.
Before he meets her. And she's maybe the straw that broke the camel's back or something, where he sees someone, you know, that's an outsider and like, oh, okay, there's, you know, maybe there's a nicer life.
Yes.
You know, and she's a light at the end of the tunnel, maybe when he was already searching for the light at the end of the tunnel. And you know what I mean?
And like we had talked about, compared to Krista, like she's not Boston. That's not what she is. And she is, it's not it's like, oh, she works at a bank. She has intelligence. All this kind of stuff, like just a quieter persona, not the, you know, yelling at the neighbors type person, brashness. Yeah. It's such an interesting character to kind of throw in this dynamic, but one that's, it's like, I really like that scene where they're out on a date and then Jim shows up. And it's like,
that's tense.
We're talking about tension.
That's
It's like,
tense.
it's like, oh no. It's like, is she going to see the tattoo? Is Jim going to make some terrible decision? And it kind of bases on everything. It's like, oh, well, Doug still wants to keep in this level of having these separations. It's such a great scene.
Worlds collide.
Yeah. Rebecca Hall, though, kind of a really interesting career. First thing I ever saw her in, probably the first thing you ever saw her in, from The Prestige, playing Christian Bale's wife, who eventually kills herself.
The Prestige.
The Magicians, Dueling Magicians with Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. You haven't seen The Prestige? Okay, I was just say. I was just saying.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
And then she was she gets a lot of critical acclaim. She was in a Woody Allen movie, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and then she was in the movie Frost Nixon. A very superfluous character, one of those like, oh, the David Frost's girlfriend, one of those type of things, is in The Town, and that's really like after The Town, everybody's like, okay, well, she's kind of going to be a big thing. She played a role in Iron Man 3, where again, people don't really know what to do with her. She's kind of like the female Jon Hamm. Like, she's great, and then they put her in a movie, and they don't really have much to do with her. She was in a movie called Christine from 2016. She plays Christine Chubbuck. Do you know who Christine Chubbuck is?
No clue.
She was a woman who was a newscaster, and she shot herself live on the air.
Oh, wow.
And kind of
Bud Dyered herself.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And that's kind of that's the most acclaim she's gotten lately. She's actually does some directing. She directed a movie called Passing from 2 years ago. Really good movie there. Okay. Then she's in this movie called Resurrection from last year. And I want to tell you about this movie. She plays this woman who is, everything's going well. She's a single mom, but her daughter's about to go to college. Everything's good. And she's kind of a quiet, reserved lady. And then one day, Tim Roth shows up like at a class she's in, and she loses her mind. She's like freaks out and leaves. And then she keeps seeing him around, like in various places, at stores, at parks and stuff like that. It turns out that he was like a guy who kind of brainwashed her whenever she was younger. And he's kind of come back, and it goes in such crazy ass directions. I don't want to spoil it for you just for the sake of you watching the movie. It is one of the wackiest things I've ever seen. It seems like something your wife would love, just cackling with glee at how insane it is. It's called Resurrection. Really good. I really enjoyed it. Nice 103 minutes. Exceptional performance from Rebecca Hall. I'm a big Rebecca Hall fan, so please do go seek that out if you get the chance. Fans as well. I think it's on VOD. So by all means, check out Rebecca Hall. We will take a quick break, and then we will come back. All right, we are back. Before we move on, I want to talk about the 2010 Oscars real quick. So, The Town, nominated just for the one for Jeremy Renner, probably was just on the outside of a Best Picture nomination. I just want to put in context where everything was for the Oscars. So in 2008, there were only 5 nominees for Best Picture, and it had been like that for a long, long time. But in 2008, The Dark Knight and WALL-E was not nominated for Best Picture. Everybody lost their minds and said, well, there needs to be more Best Picture nominees. And so they did that. In 2009, they expanded it. Unfortunately, you get things like The Blind Side nominated for Best Picture, and everybody kind of goes, okay, well. So the next year, 2010, it's expanded. You get 10 nominees. The Town does not make it. What does make it? The King's Speech wins. The Social Network, Inception, Toy Story 3, True Grit, the True Grit remake, 127 Hours.
Yes.
There's The Fighter,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen Black Swan.
I never watched that.
That's a
but I've heard of it.
That's a great, good, wild movie. And then two small movies called The Kids Are All Right, about a lesbian couple and their sperm donor, and Winter's Bone, the movie that essentially got Jennifer Lawrence into the limelight. All I'm saying is I would put any Best Picture lineup top to bottom against 2010s, because whenever like the town doesn't make it, you know you're doing something pretty good. Like,
yeah,
we're probably gonna have to do a True Grit episode, right?
Oh, yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, there's some up there like The King's Speech, even though it's not necessarily like
it's kind of lost a little bit of its luster. It's still a good movie.
Yeah, and then there's a lot in there. It's
Inception.
like,
I know you love The Fighter.
Yeah, The Fight. Yeah, and you know why?
yeah. It's a great. I mean, great movie.
Except they killed my girl in it. Shit, tragic. No, I'm a big Rachel McAdams fan. If our viewers or listeners don't know, then if she's in it, I'll watch it.
Jake, my favorite thing about you is the idea of your just confidence going into it. It's like, oh, they killed your girl, Rachel McAdams. That's Southpaw, Jake. That is Appaloosa Hidalgo 2.0. No, it's so perfect. The Fighter is the one with
God damn it.
My Fighter is the one with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale as his drug addicted brother, who is a boxer, and Amy Adams is in it. You might not have seen The Fighter from the sound of things.
Maybe not.
You want me to edit that?
Why have you not fired me at this point?
This is why I have you here. I need this type of you. This is, people are like, The Fighter. Oh, that's the one with Jake Gyllenhaal and Rachel McAdams. Like, no, not at all. Like,
well,
it
seems right.
I love it. Whatever. No, but that was worth it. Speaking of that, perfect segue. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass.
There you go. I set it up. That week was on purpose. That everyone out there, listen.
Every week I go through the filmography.
I do that on purpose.
Put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. He gets close enough on a lot of these things, guys. So, I mean, it's okay. Today, we're talking about the Oscar nominee from this movie. Got Oscar nominations in back-to-back years because he got a Best Actor nomination the year before for The Hurt Locker. We are talking about Jeremy Renner. A kind of an odd start to his career. He was in really a lot of goofy TV and not really doing anything. And then he was in the first Jeffrey Dahmer movie. He was Jeffrey Dahmer. It was called Dahmer back from 2002. Very small. Nobody really saw it. The first thing anybody really saw him in was in 2003. I think we talked about this movie on the when we talked about Colin Farrell. SWAT. He's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in SWAT. It's one of those things you look back on and you're like, was Jeremy Renner? It's like, yeah, it was Jeremy Renner.
I would have to watch it again to remember.
I remember it specifically because at the time I'm like, this guy, who is this guy? Just kind of seemed out of nowhere. 2005, starting to get a little more movement in more high profile things. Have you seen the movie North Country? It stars Charlize Theron. It's based on a true story about a class action lawsuit about sexual harassment. Charlize Theron is living in Minnesota, and she works at a mill or a mine. Excuse me. She works at a mine, and her female coworkers are being sexually harassed in very, very bad ways. So they bring a class action lawsuit, and he is one of the other mine workers who was also a friend of He's really good in it. It's in a really good movie. It's just it's a little, it's as you can imagine, not exactly the happiest of
Not that uplifting.
not exactly
maybe.
uplift. Yes, not exactly uplifting.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Not a bad movie to check out. This is one of the movies I saw on his list. I was like, this is the one I'm not sure if you've seen, and it could really go either way if you like it or not. He plays one of the many people in the movie, a large cast. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I know it's a handful of movie to talk about. I think it's almost a masterpiece. Brad Pitt plays Jesse James. He plays, and then Casey Affleck plays the coward Robert Ford. And it is essentially a long story about how the Ford brothers sync up with the James clan and the allure of Jesse James and the end of his life. And it's an exceptional movie. Maybe Brad Pitt's best performance. Got Casey Affleck an Oscar nomination. One of the more beautiful movies that have ever been made. It's incredibly shot. I thought there was an outside chance you'd seen it, but it's
no, but that sounds right up my alley. Really,
it's kind of it's like revisionist Western, but it's a cool movie. And he's Renner is one of the many cast and characters in there. I think it's pretty historically accurate. I mean, Jesse James, Robert Ford, Frank James, Charlie Ford, Sam Rockwell plays Charlie Ford, Robert Ford's brother. Obviously, these are real people with all these interesting things in there. It's a big cast. Mary Louise Parker, Zooey Deschanel, a lot of cool people in that movie. I would suggest check it out. And we just talked about it earlier. The Best Picture winner from 2009, his first Best Actor nomination. And probably the movie he will forever be known for, The Hurt Locker.
Oh yeah, great movie.
I will freely admit, probably the first movie I ever pirated. I watched it. The funny thing about it is I watched it in halves because of the way the pirating was, and it started right whenever Ralph Fiennes gets killed, when they're in the desert, and I'm watching it all the way through. I'm like, this is a funny movie. It really jumps in. And then I watched the second half and I went, I'm an idiot. And I just, the credits are rolling and I'm like, oh, I'm stupid, but an exceptional movie.
Yeah. Great movie.
Great. Yeah. Just a top to bottom. The original, probably the best Iraq war movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think it did a great job of kind of speaking to a lot of experiences where,
yes,
as far as veterans coming home,
yeah,
and you think, okay, your war's done, you're back home. That's what you wanted. But it's not right.
You understand the mentality of wanting to reenlist.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And
yeah.
I used to really fucking matter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like it.
And now I'm picking out
cleaning out gutters.
It's like,
and yeah, exactly. Yes.
I think I'd rather get shot at.
Yeah, it's funny of
of
all the really dynamic, interesting things that movie does, the last 10, 15 minutes is really the most important part of the movie.
It absolutely is.
So he comes off The Hurt Locker, comes right into the town, gets the Oscar nomination. After that, they are like, okay, you're going to be a big star in pretty much everything. They threw him in the fourth. Have you seen the fourth Mission Impossible? The one with the first one with him. He's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. That's the one where they're in Dubai, and they're scaling the Burj Khalifa. And that's a pretty dynamic, interesting scene. But good movie. I like all the Mission Impossible movies personally. I think they're really interesting and well done. But he pops in there, and then he pops in the Marvel universe. Have you seen the Avengers?
No.
I know you're not a big Marvel guy. He's
not.
He is the bow and arrow man himself, Clint Barton. He is Hawkeye.
Yeah.
The thing he is known for. Now, a movie I know you have seen. A Jason Bourne movie without Jason Bourne, The Bourne Legacy.
Yes, I've seen all the Bournes.
So I really like The Bourne Legacy. There is like an hour stretch of The Bourne Legacy that is really, really, really good. Like from whenever they try to kill Rachel Weisz all the way until he gets sick. Like that stretch is just like perfect filmmaking. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of fluff on each side, but I mean, really interesting movie. Like you like all the Bourne movies, you said.
Yes.
Okay. You're way on the Bourne side. I get it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now a movie I know you have seen for a fact on your shelf every year, a yearly watch, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
No.
Believe it or not, it is a thing. It's
never heard of it.
It's essentially Hansel and Gretel escape the witch, grow up, and they're witch hunters. And the script and cocaine writes itself, right?
Well, cocaine helps. I mean,
it's a movie I have not seen, and I probably will not see anytime soon. So reteaming, he's been doing. He kind of sticks with certain directors and certain actors, more Christian Bale along the same lines as well. Have you seen the film American Hustle? That's the ab scam movie where con artists and politicians. Do you know what I mean by ab scam?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think I have.
I think it's really well done. It's lost its luster in the last couple of years. I like American Hustle. It's fun. Great Christian Bale performance. Bradley Cooper acting like he's on cocaine. I don't know if he's actually on cocaine, but he's acting like he is. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, good movie. I like it. So I'm a little surprised that like the subject matter that he is involved in movie wise is stuff you care about, but you just haven't seen the movies.
Yeah.
Another one, pretty much along the same exact lines. In 2000, I just wanted to include this one. 2014, Renner plays the lead in Kill the Messenger. Kill the Messenger he plays Gary Webb, who was a journalist who essentially, I believe he found out about the Iran-Contra money, I think.
Oh, okay.
And he, it's something about dark money and stuff like that having to do with the CIA. The CIA essentially had a smear campaign against him, essentially destroyed his career, and he ended up dead a couple years later. It's
weird how that happens.
Kind of funny. By the way, killed himself with 2 gunshot wounds to the face.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, you're in a maximum security facility on suicide watch and the 2 guards take a nap and, cameras don't work and you hang yourself. I mean,
it happens.
I don't know.
Happens.
Weird shit happens. Okay, folks.
So that was in 2014. Well-received movie. Not a whole lot of people didn't see it. Does another Mission Impossible movie, does a couple more Marvel movies. And then in 2016, have you seen the movie Arrival with Amy Adams? These big like 16 big UFO type things land in various parts of the world. And these scientists all kind of get together and try to figure out what these aliens want. I love it. I know a lot of people who hate it. I love the movie. He plays a kind of a very much a supporting role, but I'm not surprised you haven't seen Arrival. He does some stuff that I'm like, if it's not a Marvel movie or not Mission Impossible, I guess it's just kind of off the beaten path a little bit.
Oh, wait. Will Smith?
No. No, you're doing okay.
I'm making fun of myself.
I know. I was to say that's great. I'm proud of you for leaning into the skid.
One of the Bridge Brothers.
Okay,
the guy from Christmas Vacation.
Okay, all right. I only got 2 more for you. So
that's a no.
So this one from 2017. Another movie we might have to do on this podcast, Wind River.
Yes.
You
Almost positive.
Okay,
Describe it.
So he's like a tracker in he's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife tracker in Wyoming, and they find a dead woman in the snow.
Yep.
And him and Elizabeth Olsen go and I have seen that. I love that movie. And John Bernthal showing up in it. A lot of I don't. It was really small. I don't know why a whole lot of people didn't see it, but I love Wind River.
Yeah, I do too. Now that you mention it, it's kind of one of those that's like easy to forget, but you think about it and you're like, oh, that was good.
That was really good.
That not a bigger deal?
Yeah, it's there's a term that people use called a movie that doesn't exist. Like it is a movie, but like it just doesn't stay in the consciousness for some whatever reason. So I got one more movie for you, reteaming with Jon Hamm, the Hamm Renner reconnection that everybody needed. Have you seen the film Tag?
No.
It's based off of a true story of a bunch of friends who played tag way into their 40s. It's a lot more fun than you'd think it is. And Renner is kind of like the champion of tag. That his friends he's like, no, they play for like 1 month out of the year and he just can't be tagged. And he's just really good at it. And he's like a ninja type thing. It's a real fun, goofy movie. If it's a Saturday night and you're like, what are you going to watch? And it's like, well, Tag's on. Perfect. Hamm's having a lot of fun. Ed Helms, a lot of Ela Fisher in there. It's fun. I highly recommend you check it out. It's more like an action movie. So that does it for Jeremy Renner. Jake, you got 4. You got SWAT, The Hurt Locker, The Bourne Legacy, and Wind River. No on North Country, Assassination of Jesse James by the Carol Robert Ford, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Avengers, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, American Hustle, Kill the Messenger, Arrival, and Tag. Unless you mix some of those up. 4 out of 13. That I don't know if that's your worst one. But
that's probably my worst
one of your worst. That's impressive. I'm proud of you.
But can we just like count the ones that I thought we were talking about?
Yes. It's like there's the benefit of the doubt being what it is. All right, buddy. I think it's about that time.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. All right. Well, I just showed myself to be a dumbass. But now I'm putting you in the hot box, Ben.
Each episode, instead of me starting the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's trivia. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes you got a hair or you got a print off that car and you have to act like it is an authentic print. What you got for me?
All right. For this one, I kind of have a special approach on this one.
I like it.
I want to have a lively debate on. Yes. Okay, so the character Claire, played by Rebecca Hall, obviously, and the character Krista, played by Blake Lively.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to attempt to make an argument for Blake Lively's character here.
Okay, please. I like it.
So obviously, if I asked you which one you going to wife up? What's obvious?
Claire's obviously the wife. On paper, it's obviously the wife. Like there's no third woman in this movie at all. So it's if you do the F, marry, kill, it's like, well, obviously F Kirsta married Claire and then kill nobody. Like, yeah. So on paper, at least.
All right. On paper. And I agree.
Yes.
That's the logical. But let me ask you a series of questions and see if I might be able to change your mind or at least sway you in a certain direction.
I gotcha.
All right. You have to call your wife. Okay. Either way.
Okay.
All right. And say, I crapped my pants at a pizza planet.
Okay.
And I need you to get me replacement clothing or just come pick me up real quick like.
Okay.
Okay, real quick like.
Okay.
Which one you going with?
Okay, so
who's gonna come in and not judge you for having crapped your pants and get you the hell out of there?
Okay, so I know you're leaning towards Krista on this one, but I want you to keep in mind that she might be oxy high and she might not be available to pick you up. And that's on the other. Now, as far as the like, okay,
but you got to keep in mind, okay, we're come from the perspective that you're Ben Affleck. Okay. You're Dougie McRae. So she's all about you.
Okay. So yeah. So you are correct. There is no hesitation from Krista to go get Dougie because he just crapped his pants at a pizza planet. Like I mean, it's the very much like, hey, I crapped my pants. You got to come get me. Whose car are we taking? Very much that type of mentality.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not wrong. I'll give you that.
Okay. You got to call your old lady. Something happened.
Okay.
I got to get rid of a body.
Yes.
Something happened. We got to get rid of a body. If we don't do this right, I'm going to prison. Which one are you going for?
Unquestionably, Krista, because it's not even a question. Now the problem is you said we have to do it right so I don't go to prison. And Krista sure seems like the type of person who is going to fuck something up. Like, oh, I left my personalized nail clippers there. Now if you do it with Claire, she might hide the body, but she's going to be morally racked for the rest of her life. It's not going to be something that's easy to overcome.
She'll squeal.
Yeah. It'll eventually be something that she can't. Yeah. She has to save herself. But Krista, you're right. Krista is the answer.
All right. Let's see.
I love this.
Okay. Here's the thing. Affleck's character, Doug, basically his entire relationship with Claire is based on complete lies.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would argue not the foundation of a good relationship.
True.
As messed up as their history might be, his relationship with Krista completely based on them knowing absolutely everything about each other, including all the skeletons in their closet, the whole bit.
100%. It's like, especially like you said, the skeletons, like it's the kind of running theory that Jim is like, no, my nephew or niece, the kid, the girl, is it a girl? Yeah. The little girl, Blake Lively's daughter. Shine. So, I mean, Jim goes under the expectation that that's Doug's, and Doug is convinced. It's like, it's not. And it's like,
she's not mine.
I almost forgot the book. It's not implied. The book, it's Fergie's. Yeah. That's
gross. Well, that changes things.
But still,
we're talking about a movie.
Yeah, we are talking about a movie. You're right. So, but you're right. Like, as far as compatibility and like the actual compatibility, not even like who, if you're trying to like attracts like, it's definitely Krista. Yeah, it's Doug's trying to get away from it. That's why he goes to Claire. Yeah.
All right. So, let's see. All right.
Okay. This is wonderful.
Who's hotter?
if you're just talking about like time and place, like I said, I love Rebecca Hall, but I mean, there's something about crazy Blake Lively. It's not like, I'm not talking about Blake Lively and Rebecca Hall. I'm talking about the people, the Claire and Krista, crazy Krista, or
yes.
Claire. Like, it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be some wacky fun, but I mean, we literally 2 episodes ago we had an entire episode about how Ben Affleck should not marry a crazy woman, and you're trying to make the argument.
Well, I don't know.
now
she's even birds with broken wings need to find their nest.
Put that on a pillow.
I would argue that the birds with the broken wings need the nest more than those that can fly.
I think that's fair. That's great.
I just feel like
I love your argument. I love it. It's
Krista be your ride and die.
Absolutely. She's not going anywhere.
But she ends up snitching.
But she does some snitching. I mean, but so does Claire. So I mean, they both do. They both do. It's not. But both are cases of self-preservation. It's not like, oh, you pissed me off and I'm leaving. It's, yes, you pissed me off, but then she got a DUI, and she had oxy and cocaine in her system. So they're like, well, not a whole lot of options.
Yeah. All right.
I like your argument.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. I retract the entire thing.
Okay.
Women will stab you right in the back. It doesn't matter how hot they are.
I nor Critic Common Pod endorse anything Jake says. This is his own opinion and it was expressed as such. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just a blanket statement.
I would not turn down an opportunity to be ridden on my couch by Blake Lively.
No,
that's all I'm saying. Okay,
you're not wrong.
Controversial.
You're not wrong. That's the thesis statement of this whole podcast, Jake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
All right, Ben. That's all I got. Good. You're out of the hot box, man.
Good deal, buddy. You know, we didn't talk about Pete Postlethwaite at all. I love Pete Postlethwaite in this movie, and I love Pete Postlethwaite in general. This is not his last movie, but I think this is like his second to last movie.
Yeah.
So, but great in this movie. Fergie is such a disgusting character. Like, why is he so gross despite never really doing anything gross?
He's fucking ruthless.
Oh man, sitting there just trimming roses.
Yeah, and it's such a benign setting, you know, like
a flower shop. Yeah.
The florist, you know.
Yeah.
But then he's talking to Doug and basically explains how he neutered his dad basically by taking out his mom, and a druggy suicidal chick. You know, he knows how to cut deep. Yeah. Even if he's sitting there just trimming roses. Yeah. You know, he's especially unlikable. And boy, he does a great job.
And man, what a great ending for Fergie though. Is like, hey, I gotta clip your nuts for you. It's like, oh baby. Yes, sir. All right, Jake, is there anything else you have for the town?
No, it's a really, really great movie.
What's your film rating?
Super high. Like, I would watch it anytime. Every time I watch it, I get a little something more out of it. It's gritty. It's definitely not for the kids or anything, but it's gritty. It's well done. It's superbly acted.
Yes.
Superbly acted. Mm-hmm. I cannot think of someone who acted in this movie that screwed it up.
I agree. Really like Titus Welliver. We never talked about him at all. He was great. Chris Cooper has that one scene, and we haven't talked about him at all. Yeah, exceptional in that movie. Yeah, and
Chris Cooper does great.
Great job. Yeah. I also really like this. I got 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's my number 3 movie from 2010. Except I think it's exceptionally well done. I don't know if it's better than Gone Baby Gone, but it might be. I think
it is.
They're different types of movies.
They are. They're very different.
I probably leaned more towards the town, but so I really enjoy this movie as well. One last thing before we go, I want to shout out to Jeremy Renner. Hopefully he gets better as he is recovering from being run over by a snowplow a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And
I heard he might lose his leg.
I don't think he did, but I mean, it's going to be like a long road back to looking. I mean, it sounds like it was a real mess. But I mean, he's always so good and everything. So it's nice. Do you watch Mayor of Kingstown?
No, but I've seen the commercials for it, and it looks good. I've never gotten around to it.
I might have to get around to it too. All right. I think that just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebIsBen, on Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram, Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, Ice Cream for Freaks, and you can follow my other writings on the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. Got my final Oscar predictions out. Oscars are, whenever this episode drops, it'll be tomorrow. Thinking pretty optimistic about Everything Everywhere All at Once being the Best Picture winner. If you that's a wacky movie if you have the chance to see it. You can also find me on other pods as I'm Dale Thusa podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you banging it out at 9 a.m. on the South Side?
Man, I'll be doing Oxy with Blake Lively if I have any way to figure that out.
Mr. 6 Inches himself.
Hey-o.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Comment Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We'll catch you guys next time. We got a little bit of a mini series at the end of April. We're really excited for movies from our childhood that we kind of admit are bad, but we like them anyway. We got a double episode essentially next week. So you guys buckle in. That's going to be a fun one. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
See y'all.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?